I met him at Lake Kennedy. It was a
he was
he was the first polar politician I ever met.
Well, I had to figure out where.
Well, he was a good one. He knew how to get elected. He knew how to raise money. He knew how to pick a good name. That put you way out in front of whoever was second if you got a name that sort of clicks.
Rolls off the tongue a little better than Cornelius McGillicuddy.
Yes. Have a gimmick, and I rode a horse all through the they call me the dark horse kid.
That's a different. That's
the story is a long way.
See, it seems like you've been in politics here forever. That's why I think you get blamed for everything. I notice every time we go to a forum, someone stands up and they're like,
I'm going to do the dirty work here.
That was the period I wanted to eat.
Where should I sit? Here?
Anywhere. Here is fine. That's fine.
If you get elected, you want to put together a
talking to me. Talk to anybody. Talk to somebody that knows what's going on. I've just been fake.
Oh, he'll tell you about his tangerines.
I will do that. Hey, Jay, did you go up and try out your seat?
Well, no. No, I was downstairs in my office actually.
Checking the curtains.
Yeah, I was downstairs in the office.
You say you blow the whistle.
This is the last Lake County tour. Good to see you again. Yeah, this is our last old home week for all the sand bases. Yeah, this has been a really great race. I'm so glad that all three of us had a chance to actually get up there and talk about the issues. A little upset last night. We veered away from the issues there. One of us did.
I just love Ray Democrat.
Good evening and welcome. I am Clara Ann Graham, past president and current board member of the League of Women Voters of Lee County. Tonight the League brings you a candidates meeting for the U.S. Congress District 14, Florida State Senate District 27, Florida State House District 72 and 73, and County Commission Districts 1, 3, and 5. There will be 7 segments. We ask each candidate to change places quickly to expedite the process. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not endorse candidates or parties. We do, however, take stands on issues that our members have studied and agreed upon. One of our major roles in this community is voter education, and we are so pleased to bring you this candidates meeting. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast live on County Government Channel 11 on Comcast, and also will be rebroadcast Sunday at 5 p.m. As we will rebroadcast this. Please watch for newspapers if you have any questions. Now I will review the rules of this forum. Each speaker will make their opening presentation in alphabetical order, and raps will be in the reverse order. Questions will be rotated between the speakers. Each speaker will have 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. As questions are asked, speakers will be allowed 1 minute for each question. Our timekeeper, League of Women Voters member Hugh Barkley, I'd like to say that our membership is made up of 20% men, will notify the speakers of 30 seconds and a stop sign at the end of 1 minute. No more than 10 seconds will be allowed for closure. There will be absolutely no personal attacks or abusive language permitted. All questions will be from the audience and must be in writing. The League of Women Voter members will pass out cards and pencils for your use and will also pick up these cards. Please raise your hand if you have a question to be picked up. These questions will then be given to our League members, Pat Fish and Laura Miller, who will review and hand them to me. Please hold your applause to the end. Now let me introduce our first set of candidates. Our first set of candidates are running for State House District 72. That encompasses 35% of Charlotte, El DeSoto, and part of North Lee. I want to thank both these candidates for being here tonight, because after their presentation tonight, they are leaving to go to another League of Women Voters Candidates Forum in Charlotte County, and we thank you. The first presenter is Judy J.J. Giuliano.
Good evening, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event. I am Judy J.J. Giuliano, Democratic candidate for the State House District 72. And I've lived in Charlotte County since 1985. I work in healthcare as a registered nurse, and we all know who in healthcare makes sure that things get done. That's right, the nurse. And I have a long quality record of public service that will serve you well. My Italian family taught me about traditional values, integrity, hard work, and social responsibilities. And if you want someone who will fight for the middle class, putting people and communities first, then I'm your person, and I ask you for your vote.
Thank you. Paige Kriegel.
I'd like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters who put this together, and it's a wonderful opportunity for the candidates, and it's a great service to the people of Lee County. I thank you. I'm Paige Kriegel, and I'm a state representative for District 72. And I've been that for 4 years now. I'm seeking my third term. It's been my pleasure, my honor to serve the people of Southwest Florida. During my tenure, I've had the honor of being able to sponsor and pass legislation which help veterans and their families upon returning from the war in Iraq. This past year, I've been chairman of the House Energy Committee, and it was my pleasure and a lot of work to pass a 248-page energy bill, which would move our state towards a future of energy independence, security, and conservation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Judy, you will start with the first question. State Senate and representatives, are there any proposals at the state level that would help to increase health care coverage for the increasing numbers of uninsured Floridians? Will you propose any?
Yes, and I've worked in healthcare for 24 years, so I am committed to affordable healthcare coverage. Health insurance coverage is often linked with jobs, and I think we need to extend the time for COBRA benefits for those that are paying for COBRA, to extend it to 2 years. We currently do it for 16 months. One of the things that I will focus will be affordable health care coverage for small business owners. There's a plan that's been underutilized that I certainly would like to strengthen and have that availability. Eliminating fraud in Medicare would be at the top of the list as a first solution as well.
Okay, Paige.
The trouble with extending COBRA coverage is that if you lose your job, COBRA becomes unavailable. It's available, but it becomes unaffordable. COBRA coverage guarantees you the right towards having the same insurance you had while you were working, but it does nothing about the price. And the price is generally for a family between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. If you lost your job, that's unavailable. What's going to be happening, what's happening now, is that more and more people are becoming unemployed and available for Medicaid benefits. The struggle this year is going to be to make Medicaid remain solvent with increasing numbers of people and the incredible budget crunch facing us. And I have some ideas about how to do that. It's going to involve putting some claims on the Medicaid formulary, some things that may not make some drug companies happy, but we need to retain Medicaid as the safety net that it is.
Okay, thank you. Paige, you'll start with this question. Even though Amendment 5, eliminating school property taxes, was struck down by the courts, do you agree that the tax exemptions should be reviewed and eliminated if possible to raise state revenues?
I'm not at all for raising taxes of any kind. the review process may in fact do that. However, and as far as there were certain exemptions put in place for the real estate taxes, I'm sorry, I misspoke that, for the sales taxes. I have no problem with reviewing that because I wasn't there when those exemptions were put in place. I'm not sure that I agree with all of them. Certainly the exemptions for sales tax on food and medicine are the two biggest, and I believe they should remain exempt from sales tax. I don't believe in a bad economy that we can ask people to buy 7% less food or 7% less medicine. The ones that are commonly bandied about, which include sales tax on ostrich feed and skyboxes, I don't have a problem with reviewing that, but we need to be serious with ourselves. We're not going to raise too much money with taxing ostrich feed.
Thank you. Judy?
Well, balancing a budget is about fixing priorities and about taking a stand on fixing bad tax policies that have continued year after year. Florida has 250 plus tax giveaways. And I think it's important that we can at least review some of the ones that we can eliminate or perhaps freeze for 1 or 2 years that won't hurt the middle class. And certainly I agree to leave food and medicine alone. But yes, I think I would be supportive of reviewing the 250 tax giveaways.
Okay, thank you. Judy, you'll start with this question. What is the number one thing you're going to accomplish if you are elected?
One of the things that are top on my list would be the availability for small business owners to pull together. It's an underutilized plan, but they can pull together to purchase insurance at a lower rate and offer that to their employees. The second thing that I would like to see happen is our mortgage crisis is first in the country. We need to have some changes in regards to a comprehensive, streamlined, reform plan on our mortgage crisis. Florida's been a little asleep at the wheel over the past couple of years, and we find ourselves in a crisis because of it.
Thank you. Paige?
If I'm re-elected, a lot of my energies will be dependent on exactly where I'm placed. Last year I was chairman of the Energy Committee, and I expect I would either be chairman of that or healthcare. If energy, I think we need to focus on the incredible cost of energy for Floridians. It's nice to be pushing alternative energies, and we've been doing that. But we need to also consider ways to make alternative energies that are affordable to the consumer. If in fact I'm chairman of healthcare, once again we get back to, we're going to have increasing numbers of Medicaid enrollees on the Medicaid rolls. We need to be able to preserve Medicaid as a viable healthcare option for those people who need it, and yet be able to do it within the budgetary constraints which are going to be upon us.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, that's all the questions we have for you. So Paige Grievel, would you please start with your summation?
It's been once again my pleasure and honor to serve the people of Southwest Florida for the last 4 years. A lot of people think that going to Tallahassee and passing laws is mostly what legislators do. Thankfully, we're only there for 60 days a year. The most important part of my job is essentially your representative and your ombudsman for people who have problems right here in the district. And whether that's problems getting Medicaid coverage, the zoning, licensing of any kind with any state agency, or if you're dealing with a state agency and you just don't feel that you're getting your money's worth, if you're getting the runaround, please, it's our pleasure to help. Give us a call, 575-5820. We'll be glad to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy, J.J. Juliana?
Elections aren't necessarily about re-electing experienced politicians with a few years under the belt. Look at all the experience we have in Tallahassee right now, and look at where Florida ranks. It's also about how people conduct themselves in office is also very important. It's about who currently remains underneath investigation facing ethics and election law violations. And then I'll give you a hint. It's not me. If elected, I will work diligently and honestly to represent you, making sure the votes I cast and the bills I sponsor will be in your best interest. I thank you and I ask you to vote for me to be your next state representative, District 72.
Okay, thank you very much and have a safe trip to Charlotte.
Thank you.
Our next group of candidates will be Dave Ehrenberg and Matt Caldwell.
You ready?
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. This is for State Senate Race District 27 that encompasses Lee County, Giles County, Henry County, and Palm Beach County. Our first speaker will be Dave Ehrenberg.
Well, hello, I'm Dave Ehrenberg. I'm your state senator here in the 27th district. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. I've been fortunate to work with the League on such important issues as closing the insidious write-in loophole, which keeps people from voting. The League and I have also worked together to help encourage people to vote by allowing third-party groups such as the League and other organizations to register new voters, to expand democracy to everyone, to all Americans. I have also led the fight against consumer fraud since I've been elected, standing up for people, not the powerful. I used to be an assistant attorney general in the Economic Crimes Division, and since then I've continued my fight against consumer fraud, whether it's returning more than $4 million to people who have called about being ripped off, to fighting against the sale or lease of Alligator Alley to foreign-owned companies. I'm Dave Ehrenberg. I'm honored to be your state senator, and I'm hoping for 4 more years in office. I've been endorsed by both local newspapers, but the only endorsement that really matters is the endorsement of the voters on November 4th.
Thank you. Matt Caldwell.
Thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. To say real quick, as a lifelong resident of Lee County, I looked at the people sitting up here for a long time, but it's quite an experience to get up here behind the podium, to the commissioners there, and get to enjoy all the hard work they do for Lee County. My name is Matt Caldwell. I live in Lehigh Acres with my wife, Vaughn, and daughter, Ava. There's some big priorities we need to focus on this next year. I want to continue building on my successes with Everglades Restoration. I've worked very hard for our community and for Southwest Florida on the subcommittee of the South Florida Water Management District. I also want to focus on some major tax policies and budget issues. Those of you that have known me know that I've been a staunch advocate of cutting taxes and keeping spending low here in Lee County and also out in Lehigh Acres, where I live and working with East County Water Control District. We also need to build on the successes with an energy policy that focuses on traditional and alternative sources of energy and makes us a successful and competitive state. I look forward to the questions you have this evening.
Thank you. Dave, you'll be first. Okay. There are over $1 billion in special interest sales tax exemptions. In this time of economics, we need to vote. Believe that you need to vote to carefully examine each and every exemption and remove those that do not serve the interest of the general population?
Yes and yes. There's actually more than $1 billion. There are billions and billions, and you have different estimates out there. But what has happened is that groups with good lobbyists can go up to Tallahassee and pass a special interest tax loophole. There's a cost of that. There's a cost of that in draining our budget. We had to cut $1 billion this past session in education because we didn't have enough money. What happens is, by creating more and more tax loopholes, the rest of us pay for it. There's no free lunch. And so that's why property taxes are artificially high. That's why we couldn't invest in education like we should. What we need to do is to review the more than 300 different sales tax exemptions. Keep the ones that are good for our economy and get rid of the ones that just bleed our economy, that bleed education, that force property tax rates to be higher than they should be. So yes, and that's something the League has taken a leadership role on, and it's something I've supported since I was first elected in 2002.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes, I think we need to focus on every single one of the exemptions outside of the necessities of food, healthcare, and rent. Very simply, I would take it a step farther and make it state law that any kind of exemption that was ever passed has to have a sunset provision in it. I think any time that you argue for an exemption, perhaps for an industry that's in only its infancy here in Florida and we want to encourage it, we ought to build in every time a sunset, so it's required. We argue out the necessity of that exemption sometime in the future. I want to make that policy.
Okay, thank you, Matt. This question is for you to start first. What do you see as Florida's best hope as we seek alternative energy sources?
Well, we've had some excellent leadership from the governor here this past year with the new solar plant that we're working on north of here with the gentleman from Spain, and also some wind power. Some very positive projects like the one over at Florida Atlantic to perhaps harness hydroelectric power out of the Gulf Stream. We need a holistic approach to energy. Certainly we're today a hydrocarbon economy, and we don't need to hamstring ourselves by not focusing on increasing our supplies of oil and natural gas in the immediate future. But in the long term, we're not going to be able to sustain ourselves on that non-renewable resource. So we need to focus on these alternative energy sources and encourage those that are most likely to succeed on their own without subsidy or some kind of tax benefit.
Thank you. Dave?
Florida is a sunshine state, yet we lag behind other states in the production of solar energy. And it's a shame, but we haven't had a real energy policy in our state until last year with the governor's leadership, and I was the vice chair of the Public Utilities Committee that worked with the governor on this issue, that we're able to come up with some alternative energy tax credits. And hopefully Florida will now begin to produce solar energy like it should. We are the sunshine state after all. But beyond that, I had a meeting before I came here with the mayor of Clewiston. This was just about an hour and a half ago, and met with some leaders in Hendry County. And we talked about the plant that was supposed to be built, that was supposed to take orange peels and create energy out of it. This was a big announcement from FPML, but it has not materialized yet. We really need to look to alternative energy as our future. We're not going to be able to drill our way out of our energy crisis. Drilling is fine, but it's not a long-term solution. So we need more solar energy. We need to look at biomass. We have sugarcane, ethanol. And also, let's continue to look at nuclear because we haven't had a nuclear plant permitted in many years.
Okay, thank you. Dave, you go first. What is your position on property taxes as a major source of funding? Should they be reduced?
Well, I co-sponsored part of the governor's tax relief plan. That was one that capped local government spending and rolled back taxes. I support Amendment 1, which passed in Lee County with 81% of the vote. But let's be honest about it. Amendment 1 was not tax reform. It was short-term tax relief. It was portability. It will not solve our problems. We need to review all of our special interest tax exemptions. And when we raise revenue from doing so, we can provide long-term real tax relief for property taxpayers. One way to do so is to spread the Save Our Home savings to non-homesteaders. We have an inequitable system right now. And if we're going to save money by closing some of these special interest tax loopholes, we should be able to allow property taxes to be lowered for everyone and not just for homesteaders. Amendment 1 really benefited just homesteaders. We need to expand the relief.
Okay, thank you. Matt?
Yes, and those that have been familiar with what I've done over the past couple years in Lee County, I don't doubt for a second that the local government agencies that have an active tax have benefited from the explosion in property values over the past several years and the accompanying income from taxes. We do need to still adapt some of our property tax policies, such as the recapture rule. This is something the Department of Revenue weighed in on after we passed Save Our Homes back in the mid-90s, and it's never been addressed. It needs to be. It's unfair, and it's just not right. It doesn't reflect the intention of Save Our Homes. Also, a very positive amendment that's on the ballot this fall to assess working waterfront at the current use rather than ice and best use. I'm one that thinks what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We ought to look at expanding that to all property types and pass that savings along. I'm for a more fair and equal tax system wherever possible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Matt, we'll start with this question. What is your position on the Florida buyout of U.S. sugar?
Well, that's certainly become more complex since the credit markets became much more difficult. We'll see how that deal shapes up. There are some positive outcomes that can come from that deal. Certainly what's been proposed to keep the portion of the land needed for a flowway, looking to put the rest of the property back out into the open market, whether it's the citrus operation or the excess lands for a trade. It's a complex deal with a lot of different facets. I have a way I'd like to see it turn out if I had a magic wand, and I hope that's where it ends up at the end of the day. But I trust the leadership that's working on this issue.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Dave?
This issue was made more difficult with the credit market difficulties. even though the South Florida Water Management District cannot itself issue bonds, they issue what's called certificates of participation, which are similar, and it depends on the credit markets. But with the credit market collapse, it's going to put that deal in peril. One thing that has to happen, if this deal goes through, the deal needs to include other parties as well. We need to bring Florida Crystals to the table, we need to bring the co-ops to the table, and we need to bring leaders of Glades and Hendry counties to the table. So far, they have not been part of these discussions. We need to make sure that if this deal goes through, that we don't forget about the people who live in that region, because their livelihoods are at stake. So I think the deal is favorable. I think it could be a good thing in the long-term future of the area. But let's not forget that the deal includes more than the state and U.S. Sugar. There's other parties that need to be included in this.
Okay, thank you. I think that's, I'm sorry, I lost track. They were giving me a question. I apologize. You both answered that right. Okay. Dave, you will have the next question, and this will be the final question. And then Matt, you will lead off on the closing remarks. What is your position on the privatization of Alligator Alley?
I'm wholeheartedly against the lease and sale of Alligator Alley. It's a bad deal. It's bad for taxpayers. It will not happen on my watch. I've been leading the fight against it. I know that this has been a very contentious issue between us up here on this matter, but I've got to tell you, if the state wanted to raise extra revenue, they can do it themselves. They don't have to sell it out to a foreign-owned company for them to do so, so that the state politicians say, look, our hands are clean. We had nothing to do with the raising of tolls dramatically or the lowering of maintenance. If you lease or sell Alligator Alley to a foreign-owned company, it's a security risk. It's going to raise tolls, it's going to lower maintenance, because a private company is not going to want to buy Alligator Alley unless it can make money off it. And let's not think it's really a lease. It really is a sale. When you lease something for 50 years, it's a sale. It's a bad deal. I'll continue to lead the fight against it, speaking up against it. I'll be filing legislation against it. And my public records requests of the state to get documents on this have not been answered yet, but I anticipate that they will be shortly.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you. I would submit the issue wasn't contentious before my opponent misrepresented my position on it. Very simply, I haven't met a legislator yet that supports the deal. No one thinks this is a good policy. What I have said is that there are circumstances where I consider this, such as in the Great Depression when the state of Florida faced possible bankruptcy and couldn't pay off its own bond debt. You know, that's the situation where you consider leasing or selling public property. This is not that situation. We're talking about ongoing capital needs, and we ought to be able to meet those obligations with our current revenue stream and not look to sell a road off for a one-year burst of income. Then what do we do in the future? I haven't, like I said, found anybody that supports the deal. I think it's a good idea, and I certainly don't.
Okay, thank you. I want to make one statement before we go into the closing statements. We did ask Mr. Rodas, I think that's how he pronounces his name, and he did not respond to our invitation. Okay, Matt Caldwell.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate everybody who came out this evening to hear what we had to say, and also those that take the time to watch on TV. Very simply, I want to offer a different kind of approach. Too long now, I think we've let folks from both parties treat politics as a profession, rather than what it should be, which is a service. I want to serve this district as a citizen legislator. I don't want to go and look to make a career for the rest of my life and benefit financially necessarily from being a politician. I want to serve the district. I want to serve it well, and you've seen the kinds of things I've done here in the community over the past several years, and that's the type of leader I want to continue to be up in Tallahassee for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dave Ehrenberg.
Thank you. And thanks to Matt Caldwell. We've had a good series of debates, and hopefully we can keep on the issues in this race, and that's what the people want. I'm Dave Ehrenberg. I'm a state senator. I've been in office since 2002, but I've been shaking up the status quo since then. And I'm really honored to have the endorsement of the two major newspapers in Southwest Florida, the Naples Daily News and the News Press. The News Press called me the strongest consumer advocate in Florida government because I've stood up for consumers since I was first elected, and I'll continue to do so. One last thing I'd like to say is I think the Alligator Alley issue does show a difference between us in that when Matt did talk to the News Press, he did express support for the leasing of our roads. Now, I appreciate that he's saying here that he is not supportive of it. But when you have a state senator, that state senator has to be unequivocal. He or she cannot waver when it comes to an issue as important as the lease and sale of Alligator Alley. This is so important to Southwest Florida. We cannot allow our major road to be sold to a foreign-owned company. I'm Dave Ehrenberg. Thank you for your support.
We thank both Matt Caldwell and Dave Ehrenberg, and we wish you the best of luck in your election. Okay, the next candidates will be for U.S. Congress District 14. Okay, our next group of candidates is for U.S. Congress District 14. That encompasses all of Lee, Western Collier, and southwest portion of Charlotte. Our first speaker will be Robert Neal.
Hi, good evening. My name is Robert Neal. I'm a candidate for the United States House of Representatives in Florida's 14th Congressional District. I was born in Tampa, but I've lived here in Lee County since 1956. I grew up and was educated in Lee County public schools. I attended Edison Community College and the University of South Florida when I had Fort Myers campus. And since 1979, I've been self-employed in my own accounting practice. My office is now in Cape Coral, where I live. We need an accountant in Washington. They're going broke up there quick, and they don't know it yet. We have to send somebody up there with my skills to represent